ATC is very dangerous, like all things in life. But more realistically, it's like this bow and arrow right here. Like this bow and arrow, ATC instructs airplanes to move in directions that is adequate to their flight. Also, like this arrow, they can direct traffic into other traffic. Like I can direct this arrow into something that I want to shoot it at. That can either be used for good or bad. If I make a mistake, it's bad. But if I use it correctly, everything goes smoothly. So you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. Well, it is Überlingen mid-air collision of 2002. On July 1st, American Airlines flight 2937 collided mid-air with flight DHL 611, which is a Boeing 757 cargo jet. All 69 passengers were killed. Today we are going to discuss that crash, what happened with ATC instructions and pilot instructions.
One.
During this collision, both aircraft were at flight level 360, and the airspace was controlled by only one side, by one person. It was inside Switzerland and run by a private company called Sky Guide. Peter Nelson was the only person working at this station at the time. He was the only controller for the area that these two aircraft were in. He also had to control multiple other aircraft as well as these two. He quickly became task saturated and failed to recognize the collision course the aircraft were on. So both aircraft during this had a TCAS warning system, and both of them were alerting the pilots. The pilots of the Boeing TCAS system told them to descend. The pilots of the Boeing aircraft also told Nelson that they were going to descend. Nelson was dealing with flight 2937, so he didn't catch the Boeing pilots' TCAS warning system telling them to descend. So ultimately, he told flight 2937 to also to descend. He repeated the instructions to flight 2937, despite the conflicting TCAS that told them to gain altitude because they were on a collision course. He also gave flight 2937 the wrong instructions about where the DHL flight was. The planes crashed at approximately 34,840 feet. So let's look at what happened in this crash. Kind of dive into the details. So there was another controller there at the station, at the tower, call it what you want, but he was asleep for his night duty. This was not allowed by the company, but became a common practice amongst the controllers because it was allowed by management, which is a big flaw in their system. Also, the ground-based collision system that we all know about with ATC was not armed. It was undergoing maintenance and it was turned off, unbeknownst to Nelson. The collision system would have given him an adequate time warning of the crash, but it was off, so he had no idea of it. As a result of this crash, all lives were lost. Also, as a result of this crash, Nelson's life was lost. In 2004, he was murdered by the family of a man who lost his wife and children as a result of the crash. The murderer was sentenced to prison in 2005 and then released in 2007 due to a deteriorating health condition. Biggest, craziest part about this is that in 2016, he was awarded the medal called To Glory of Oseta by the government, which is the highest award for achievement improving the living conditions of the inhabitants of the region and for educating the younger generation about maintaining law and order in their region. So ultimately, he got a medal for killing the air traffic controller whose fault it was for the crash. This accident illustrates the impact of TCAS systems and how pilots should always use the TCAS systems and not listen to what the controller says. If you have a conflict between what the controller says, between your TCAS, you should listen to your TCAS first. Thank you. That was my ATC presentation. I hope you all enjoy it.